makes each approach trivial, if a little boring with how long it can be between beneficial attacks. Wait for the big orb or bow to progress, and wait for the bow to attack to maximize the attack time, and he goes down pretty quickly. If it feels like I'm passing by fights pretty quickly, remember that I have to do each one 3 times, and this is probably the least interesting cycle, despite the weapon. Hopefully that at least induces some excitement for the upcoming fights. That said, it's kinda hard to elaborate on the archives. What can I say, it's a linear level when you know what you're doing. Taking out the hollows in the first room is a little scary with how quickly their shoulder check is, but otherwise they only take 2 hits or 1 backstab, and even the buffed one from the channeler goes down too quickly to be a threat. The crystal golem goes down just as easily. One parry with the hornet ring takes care of the crystal knight, and the ray ring of sacrifice makes their first Seath encounter a footnote at best. The hornet ring makes the man serpents go down pretty quick, even the completely non-hostile one with a backstab. The Pasakas only take a couple hits each, and I was even able to let one use its titillating grab attack and backstab it right after. We get to see the Pasakas 3 whole times in this run actually, which is exciting, especially for my stream audience. Anyway, the run up the prison tower, spinning the stairs, and the run down the crystal cave all don't really offer anything resembling a challenge. Honestly, Seath doesn't really either, and he only gets his own sentence distinguishing that because he has a health bar. Just stand at mid-range, wait for an attack, hit him a couple times, run away, rinse and repeat a tedious number of times, at least with this weapon. I adore this game, but Seath is the one fight in the game that I genuinely can't find a way to rectify. It's the one thing I genuinely just find boring. At least it's not a properly annoying fight, it's too easy for that. The red tearstone ring makes the fight go by a bit faster, it's easy to get in that range with the crystals, just be careful to not get cursed. Since we're here, I want to farm the clams for the rest of the Twinkling Titanite needed for the giant blacksmith hammer, just so I don't need to worry about it. I only needed a few, so it didn't take too long, especially after grabbing the gold serpent ring, and we're ready to go straight into New Game Plus once we get there. I want to go down to the Bed of Chaos next, both because I'm used to it, but also because I want to get the Demon Fire Sage and the Centipede Demon, who's immune to fire damage, out of the way. The Worm is actually pretty resistant to fire as well, but goes down easily enough with some caution. The Fire Sage isn't actually that resistant to fire, but it is a bit jumpier than the Stray, on top of having a bit more health, so it's a little more notable. I used the Shockwave from the Butt Slam to get into RTSR range for the extra damage, and the fight went by quickly enough. I used the route down to the Centipede Demon for the same purpose, considering the fire immunity. Standing in the corner to the right of the fog wall makes it approach the starting platform pretty consistently, making it easy to cut off the arm, even if I happened to fail it once and died immediately after succeeding because I wanted to equip the ring. Granted, I don't know why I tried to equip the orange charred ring with RTSR, and I went back in with only the orange charred ring this time, making the fight trivial regardless of the damage. I've actually done this with an S-Stock +5, even lower damage, and it was just as easy, so while more, well, I hesitate to say difficult, but more lengthy than it could have been, it wasn't a particularly long fight. The same can't really be said with the Bed of Chaos, since damage doesn't matter there. Just run to the right, break the thing, quit out, run to the left, make the jump, break the thing, quit out, wait behind the tree for the scythes, dodge the 2 swipes, and drop into the middle. It works every time if you dodge through the fingers and makes the fight trivial. Our final of the 4 lords is up next, and we don't need to go through Pinwheel to get there, which is novel for me. There's not much to see in the Tomb of the Giants, and it's pretty easy to get through when you know what you're doing, so we can just skip this fight. The hammer takes out the skeletons in a single hit, making them much easier than otherwise. It's a little slow to make them trivial, but it's fast enough to not be particularly difficult. The weapon doesn't do a ton of damage to Nito, but it's enough, on top of the ease of dealing with the skeletons, that this is a relatively easy Nito fight. It's easy to keep up the pressure enough that it goes by pretty quickly as well, especially when Nito decides to be as charitable as he was with easily punishable attacks. Our damage drops pretty hard in the DLC, given the elemental resistances. It's just enough damage to be able to enjoy my favorite boss fight without being so little that it becomes tedious. I mentioned that this fight is my favorite in the Ghostblade video and didn't justify it, and a couple people were a little confused by it, since they found the fight forgettable. And I wanted to justify my opinion just because I like doing that. It is pretty forgettable when you play the game once, has very little health and dies before the pressure matters, but when you've fought every boss in the game hundreds of times, the amount of health it has stops mattering. Pinwheel is a great example of that. I think that's a great fight that can genuinely be difficult if you go in with low enough damage. It gave me trouble in my first Soul Level 1 playthrough even. The Sanctuary Guardian is the only boss in my favorite game of all time that's consistently fun no matter what I'm doing. Every boss is enjoyable to me in the vast majority of runs, but Sanctuary Guardian is the only one that is a fun fight in every single run. It has low enough health that the low damage weapons still lead to engaging fights that don't drag, on top of its highly varied moveset with charges, swipes, gliding, flying away, lightning shots, and tail swipes, and it has low enough health that high damage runs are funny against it. Artorias' moveset is interesting, but it's also very samey. It's hard to vary his fight more than an average Dark Souls 3 fight. Dodge hit works perfectly for him, even if every now and then a jump attack or a little extra aggression will do a bit better than effectively R1 spam. Actually, speaking of, it was a very simple fight, even despite the 150 damage per hit. The hammer does plenty of poise damage, so him trying to buff isn't an issue, and its speed isn't low enough to really matter. Jump attacks did really help in this fight because of the low damage though. The road to Manus is a bit tougher than the sprint through the forest to get to Artorias, but there's not too much notable. Most of it is a sprint through a town, a couple bloatheads in the way, and no platforms, and a mimic that usually dies before it even stands up fully. It was actually able to use an entire attack with a relatively low damage from the hammer, but luckily they're pretty easy to dodge. The hardest part of the DLC was kind to me, and I was able to sprint past 3 bloatheads and 2 sorcerers first try without getting it in the back. And the one up on the ledge dropped down pretty quickly when I got close to her. I find Manus himself to be really fun. It kind of exemplifies Dark Souls' quote-unquote turn-based combat, where you dodge an attack and return one, but your response can vary a lot depending on a lot of factors. Your damage, the speed of your weapon, your poise, if you have this little pendant, your roll speed, and the specific attack he uses can all change what your best response is, and sometimes it even just comes down to preference. Unfortunately, I found learning the fight to be extremely frustrating, as you have to play passive because of how quickly his combo attack and dark ring attacks come out, so Sanctuary Guardian is still on top for me. If you want an actually weird boss ranking, I think Ludden is one of, if not the best DLC boss fight in Dark Souls 2, as much as I love Alana and Sim. I'll justify that opinion eventually, but I promise I'm being 100% genuine when I say I had a great time fighting the 2 cats my last few times playing Dark Souls 2. The damage on the hammer is really low. I could have used RTSR for a much shorter fight, but I like fighting Manus now, so I just went with it. I didn't get hit until the final 5th-ish of the health bar too, and ended up using RTSR for the very last hit. I don't think it was necessary, but I did it. Calamy is a close second for my favorite boss in the game. He has a really varied and interesting moveset, and is pretty unique in the scope of the game with how you fight him. Most of his attacks can be outspaced completely by just rolling backwards, but you can't be too far away or he'll use certain attacks that can be a lot more difficult to dodge. You do have to pay attention to where you are relative to the cliffs, unfortunately, just because the glide and charge attacks are a little funky with the walls of the arena, but overall I think it's a really good fight. And if you treat the jank like a mechanic, it becomes a lot more fun. Your positioning just matters a lot more with Calamy than any other boss. The main reason he isn't my favorite is his absurd health bar. He's the tankiest boss in the game, by far, even when using strike damage, his biggest weakness. He's still fun, and I fought him with abysmal damage and had a good time, but it can get a little long-winded. Unlocking the ability to fight him is also really annoying. You need to run all the way down to the arena, run all the way back up, talk to Goff, and run all the way back down, which is just unnecessarily tedious. The hammer does more damage than the Ghost Blade, so it's not the worst Calamite fight I've ever had, but it's definitely not the best. Now we can actually fight Gwyn for the first of 3 times. The damage on Vamos' hammer isn't great. It took 8 parries to finally take him down, but fake Pigpa made those parries pretty trivial to get, and I got pretty lucky. Luckily, he's not super resistant to fire, despite being a Lord of Cinder. There's some lore stuff there, but it does mean I don't have to deal with an insanely long Gwyn fight. Oh, also, I know I forgot the butterfly, but I'm sure it would have been a trivial fight with her being weak to fire. I already know the giant blacksmith hammer is a pretty solid weapon in the first cycle, but I'm not sure how it'll perform for the second. The Asylum Demon isn't exactly a good measure for figuring that out, but going down in only 5 hits can't be a bad omen, especially with how fast this can be if you don't riff and stagger. I went ahead with a gold hem set for this playthrough since you can't really cosplay the giant blacksmith, and I think it's funny that it goes pretty heavy on the beginner challenge run angle here. Speaking of, if you've never done a challenge run in this game, I highly recommend trying out Soul Level 1. It's really fun and it gets you into the idea of playing a bit different than you would otherwise. Anyway, for our second boss, I thought it would be funny to cheese the Capra Demon. If you climb up onto this ladder here, you'll end up on top of it, then you can roll over this wall, jump down right here, and drop into the Capra Demon arena. I just took out the dogs and activated the demon by walking up to the fog wall because I didn't want to just attack a couple of times, but if you don't walk up to the fog wall, its AI will be completely disabled for the whole fight. With that, I'm going to head down to the depths and grab the large ember so I can max out the blacksmith hammer for the next cycle before I actually start it. The dog and butcher gave me a bit of a hard time, but I did successfully grab the ember and drop down into the hole before heading straight down to the gaping dragon. It's weak to lightning, so the damage is fine despite it being on the second cycle. Half of its health melts away from the first charge, and simply running to the opposite side of the arena despawns the channeler so we can bait out another charge attack without dealing with its projectiles or risking it buffing the dragon. With that, the dragon goes down nice and easy, and we can use the bone from the dragon to work back out the Firelink. I'm going to go ahead and grab the very large ember real quick too, just so I can upgrade the next hammer as soon as possible and not have to think about it. That way, ADHD doesn't make the beginning of the next cycle unnecessarily hard. The ghosts do a lot of damage, but a little persuasion and luck makes it easy enough to get past and repeat what I did in the first cycle. From there, I can just drop down and run straight to the ember. I ran through the valley and up through Havel's Tower to the Taurus Demon, since that's a bit quicker than actually going through the Burgh, and, big surprise, it dies with a plunging attack and a few hammer swings. The early parts of the game are especially easy in New Game Plus, even despite the scaling. I then ran back down Havel's Tower and got to Andre, buying the Titanite shards to max out his hammer in a previous life. I also made sure to purchase the repair box, just in case, though I don't really think I'll need it. The Gargoyles fight took less than 30 seconds, so I'm just gonna let that play out. Quelaag is up next, and she still definitely counts as early. The maxed out Estus Flask and armor definitely helped a lot, but they certainly weren't necessary considering I didn't use a single humanity to heal. The elemental resistances definitely come more into play with the DLC bosses, but I'm not doing much less damage than the first cycle. The Hammer of Amos just isn't good for the DLC, regardless of which cycle you're on. Sanctuary Guardian does take a bit longer this time around, but I was able to beat it hitless, which is really nice considering how many times I fought it with low damage. Artorias is exactly the same as the first cycle as well, but I got hit by rolling the complete wrong direction during the front flip attacks twice. Luckily though, that put me into RTSR range, making the fight go by quicker than the first cycle. I honestly probably should have been able to beat him hitless regardless of the damage, but either way, I'm not too upset with my performance here. Manus took almost no damage from R1s, but R2s, especially jump attacks, were very helpful for picking up that slack. It's still not a ton of damage, but it's enough to make it feel a lot better, and jump attacks are much quicker than normal R2s. By about halfway through the fight, I took just enough damage to get into RTSR range, and that over doubled my damage for the jumping attacks. I did die to a pure skill issue, but I went back in, starting in RTSR range this time, and took him down no problem hitless. Calamy is technically slightly weak to lightning, and pretty weak to strike, but with how split damage is calculated and New Game Plus scaling, I wasn't exactly destroying him. Actually, I wasn't doing much more damage than the Hammer of Vamos number-wise, not even relative to the full health bar. It's still Calamite, the same things from earlier still apply, and I was able to win, but it was a very long fight. 2 very long fights. Gwyn goes down just as easily as last cycle with a couple more parries considering his lightning resistance, and we can move on to our third and final cycle. I've been really excited to use the blacksmith hammer since I've obviously never used it before, considering the fact that you have to kill the primary blacksmith that upgrades it through the best path to even get it in the first place. I'm also excited to finally start using buffs and getting good damage. I forgot to attune any spells before taking out Gwyn, so I had to fight the Asylum Demon without them, and it still went down insanely quickly. The normal hammers are much faster than great hammers, and split damage isn't taking a chunk of the damage we'd do otherwise, so we're doing a good amount of damage. It occurred to me that I didn't actually grab a talisman at any point, so I need to ring both bells as soon as possible to get to the Dark Moon talisman for the best damage of the buffs that I could get. Quelaag first, just because I think it's fun to fight Quelaag before the Gargoyles. It's kind of the same thing as last time, pretty low damage, but it's Quelaag, so it doesn't matter. I'm attacking much faster than last time though, which is really nice, and the insane amount of attacks I can get off with this stamina bar is very helpful. Ceaseless gives us a few extra souls, and I drained New Londo now for some reason on my way to Andre. Actually, speaking of, I've heard people say you need to have the Master Key to skip the Taurus Demon, but you can just drain New Londo and get through the Valley of the Drakes that way. Anyway, once I reached them, the Gargoyles were very quick for a Journey 3 fight. I was able to nearly stun-lock the first one to death with the absurd amount of stamina I have at this point and the 2-hit stagger, and the second one didn't offer much resistance either. I have no idea how much damage you need to do to the Iron Golem to get it to fall over in any cycle other than the first one, but one tumble and some pocket change was enough to take it out, since I could get a bunch of attacks while it was down with the stamina bar. High stamina is genuinely invaluable for doing absurd amounts of damage, and that's probably the best use for the Ring of Favor, aside from the early game equipment load. We can offer the proofs from the last cycle to Gwendolyn, get our talisman and spell, and move on to Ornstein and Smo for the Lord Vessel one last time. On the way there, I got a bit sidetracked and picked up the Silver Knight set, and the chest plate looks kinda crazy with the brass set. The way the silver plays with the light makes the brass looks incredible in this game, though unfortunately I'm not a huge fan of the Silver Knight set in the first place, so I'll be sticking with the gold hem for now. Weapon buffs, in this case Dark Moonblade, don't get calculated the same way split damage does, as an addition of AR rather than being calculated with the weapon's AR, so I'm actually going to be able to do more damage in New Game Plus with this setup than in New Game with Vamos' hammer. In the second phase, I even used Sunlight Blade once Dark Moonblade ran out despite the lightning resistance, since buffs only add damage. More damage is more damage, no matter how you cut it. Also, maxed out Estus is kind of absurd. It fully heals this stupid health bar in only 2 sips. I didn't cheese Capra this time, since I wanted to do a normal fight, but having the Wolf Ring equipped might as well count as cheese. The dogs just don't matter and easily die in a single hit with Sunlight Blade, and the demon itself doesn't fare too much better. Actually, neither does the Gaping Dragon. I was almost able to take it out before it even stood up from the first charge, and 3 more hits finished it off. I was even doing more damage to the Stray Demon than I was in the first cycle. It didn't go by quite as fast as Capra or Gaping, but it definitely did go by fast. The Butterfly only took 1 cycle this time, barely, meaning this hammer easily outclasses the Giant Blacksmith Hammer in Journey 2 despite being in a higher cycle. When I teleported into the Painted World, I noticed the Sunlight Blade graphic in the HUD looks like it says Effect. I assume they just forgot to remove it from the final version of the texture. I asked someone else if they could see it, and they couldn't, so I traced it out and they still didn't see it. But I can't not see it now, so I don't think I'm going insane. Anyway, the small size of the hammer doesn't change the fact that hammers do really good poise damage, so Priscilla goes down just as easily as the last 2 cycles, with or without the damage we're putting out. I gotta say, the Tonitrus build is shockingly fun. I might have to actually try that in New Game at some point with the mace. One jump attack takes out the head on the Hydra, but if I use 2 R1s instead, I do plenty of damage to not have to cut off all the heads, meaning the short range of the hammer isn't going to be a detriment here. The Sith fight is even easier than the first cycle, just like seemingly every boss. The damage from Dark Moonblade is kind of insane, especially on this hammer. I feel like if I could use this in New Game, it would be one of, if not straight up, the best hammer in the game. Otherwise, unfortunately, I do think that goes to the mace. Either way, the 4 Kings are a similar story, where I'm actually doing more damage than the last cycle, until Sunlight Blade ran out. Luckily, I had a second cast because I grabbed one in the first 2 journeys. I didn't think the second cast would be useful, but it turns out it made the 4 Kings much easier than they would have been this time around, considering they're a lot more resistant to magic than lightning. My final hit was a little greedy, but ended up working out. I didn't use a buff for the prison tower, so the Pasakas actually take more than 1 hit this time around. Fortunately, that just means more time with them, and it means backstabs are more useful than normal attacks, so... I was actually able to take out Seath with only 1 cast of Sunlight Blade, given his high lightning weakness and some fortunate attacks, meaning another fight went by faster than the previous 2 cycles. The Demon Fire Sage is the same story as the Stray Demon, and the Centipede Demon made it even easier to cut off its arm this time, despite the smaller range of the hammer. It was a bit jumpy, but despite that, the fight was still quicker than the other 2 cycles. The Bed of Chaos was exactly the same, of course, and Pinwheel felt hilariously quick. Like, it's Pinwheel, so obviously, but even considering that. Nito, on the other hand, was very screamy this time, so I had to deal with that for a bit before finally actually being able to attack him without aggroing the big skeletons. Sunlight Blade lets me easily one-shot the skeletons, and even without it, I do about as much damage as the Giant Blacksmith Hammer last cycle. Once I was able to reapply it, Nito didn't last too long. I took out about half his health in a single stamina bar, but getting to that point was a little dodgier than I would have preferred. Unsurprisingly, the lack of split damage with some extra damage from the 2 best weapon buffs in the game makes the DLC melt much faster than the mediocre split damage and no buff. even in a higher new game cycle. Honestly, I kinda just want to let these fights play out because it's kind of funny how quickly they die despite the scaling. Sanctuary Guardian took less than a minute once I was able to attack. I fought Artorias in RTSR range, and I did a ton of damage to him with each hit, over 800 on a jump attack, so his fight wasn't much longer. I also got a pretty stylish, if greedy, finish. I didn't use RTSR on Manus, but I managed to do it completely hitless from start to finish. The fight is a little longer than the other two, so I'll speed it up to prove I actually did it hitless. I'm not sure why I didn't recast Sunlight Blade for so long, but the damage wasn't much higher with resistances, unfortunately. I actually completely forgot Calamite in this cycle, but I'm sure you can imagine that it would be a quicker version of the previous cycle's fight. It's unfortunate that I couldn't say I beat all 4 DLC bosses hitless on my first try with this build, but I did have a lot of fun with it. The last Gwyn fight is kinda sad, for him at least, but also kinda funny, so I'll go ahead and let that play out. So for this video, I apologize if there's background noise. It is insanely hot in this room, and so I had to leave the fan on, otherwise I would have died of heat stroke. I'm also sorry if my voice is a little scratchy. It's been a couple weeks since I've been able to record. I had surgery, gallbladder removal, and so I've been laying in bed recovering for a while and just haven't been talking, so my voice is kind of bleh right now. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all. I would especially like to thank Executioner Smo, Aora, Marky Mark, Winter, Lilith the Hammer Witch, Lamb Astisol, Validit, Nick Possum, Krista, Howling Nocturne, Ryasune21, Rakuna, Anthony, Manarok, and Ryan Rickard. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. I don't know how to end this.
In this video, I decided to try and beat Elden Ring's main game while only using cheese. Cheese can involve exploiting a glitch, a game mechanic, or an overpowered ability to gain an unfair advantage over the opponent, or in this case, the bosses. And I used these 3 definitions to absolutely destroy all the bosses I fought against. And in this case, that meant Mimic, nope, game bugs. Here we go. And of course, gravity. Yeah. Was all fair game to use. This video was really fun to make as most of my runs involve heavy restrictions, so it felt nice to switch it up. I plan to do a part 2 to this for the DLC, so if you want to see that, why not consider subscribing so you don't miss it. Anyways, it's time to move on to the video, and as always, I hope you enjoy. Alright, to start this off, I think I actually want to choose the Confessor class, just seeing as it has one of the higher faith stats out of all of the starting classes, and it has overall just decent stats in general, so I think we're just going to go with this. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is probably grab the flail in order to cheese the big dragon grail, so we could just get a bunch of runes early on. Alright, and let's just grab that. Alright, now that we're in Dragon Barrow, what we want to get is Radagon Source Seal, as it will allow us to wield the new flail that we just picked up, as I'm pretty sure it requires 17 dex, which, yeah, we don't have that. Alright, and then we just come down here, and then we quit out as soon as we grab the item. The reason we quit out here is just so we lose aggro, because otherwise it would just stop you teleporting, and then you would just die. I just converted all my potions to blue pots, because you're probably going to need them in order to kill this thing fully. We could actually make this cheese better by using bleed grease, but I'll be honest, I'm just a bit lazy to get it. Anyways, I'll probably skip to when this is done. Alright, and this should be the last few hits, I think. Yep, there we go. Anyway, now that we've got our runes, we now want to get the Meteoric Staff as well as Rock Sling in order to just absolutely cheese the first two bosses. Alright, grab this. I believe this is Rock Sling. Alright, grab that. And now to finish off by getting the Meteoric Staff, which is just over here. Alright, now we just got to finish off by talking to a few NPCs. Alright, sir, I just want you to come over peacefully. Take these rocks to the face, please. And you should be dead. GG's. See, even a toddler could do this run if they really wanted to. And of course, later on, we're probably going to use more Ash of Wars, so we will need this talisman. No, Alexander, relax. It was an accident, man. Please. Oh, on second thoughts, was not an accident at all. Look, it hurts me as much as it hurts him, okay? I promise you. To watch my friend get murdered in front of me, it really was one of the hardest things I've had to do in a while. Alright, and we also want to collect one more talisman, which is found in this cave by defeating the boss, which just makes it so that when we're at light load, we do more damage. And in this run, I imagine we'll probably be at light load quite a lot, so it'll be useful for stuff like this. And just like that, we made it to the boss room without any issues. Alright, we'll just do this. Ooh, that damage is not pretty. Never mind. Pretty adequate, actually. You should go down quite soon, though. Yeah, just like that. You know, we're not even going to repose. We're just going to keep doing this. It's a lot more cheesy to do this. And just like that, we get the Blue Dance Charm. Well, just before fighting Patches, this guy obviously blocks our way, so we're just going to need to take him out real quick. Using the power of spamming our ability. Alright, there we go. Once Hero spawns, it becomes a lot easier because he just takes aggro. And we can just spam Rock Sling from afar. And he's dead. It really is just that simple. There we go. The ultimate manipulator. This has to be one of the easiest Margit kills I'm gonna get. I mean, we don't have anything in our physic, but I don't think we're actually gonna need it. Summon you. Okay. Down on the ground. And now we start spamming. Hold it. I mean, he's rotting now, so honestly we could just play on defense. But what kind of person would I be to do that? It really is just that simple. Just using the power of spam and the power of a rock dog, it really does just make things easy. I think this section actually might just be the hardest part of the run. Getting through this part. For Godric, we're going to use the exact same strategy that we used for Margit, except we don't have the Margit Shackle. But it will still basically work the same because Godric is a bit of an easy boss to cheese. Alright, let's just summon this guy real quick. The spam starts. Now that he's distracted, we can just spam him with a few rocks. Because we do want him to proc rock at least before he dies. I mean, this is just very simple. And the dog's dead. Now we just want to move in and we just start spamming again. Probably fit another one. Yep. He's just gonna do this, and we give another one. Yep. And he is officially dead. GG's. There we go. Very simple stuff. Alright, now that we're in Liurnia, we actually want to get a different weapon to fight Renala with. And the weapon I'm going to get is known to be probably one of the most broken weapons in the game. Alright, let's just spawn him in and run. Alright, cool. He's probably going to teleport. Ah, nah, he's dead. GG's. And just like that, we have our Bloodhound Fang without any difficulty. Alright, now we just want to upgrade this thing to +5. One more thing we want to add, just to make it even better, even though it's kind of optional, is to just put Blood Flame on it, as it just increases the bleed build up by so much. Stop struggling! Alright, thank you. Alright, now that we have both of these things, we can actually start entering the academy and just, honestly, just destroying both the bosses. I wonder how quick this is going to take to kill Red Wolf. I doubt it would be that long, unless he gives me some shitty RNG, but we better find out. Okay, well, it's not great RNG to begin with. Alright, and he's dead. I would love to see how quick that was. I mean, I wasn't really surprised. I mean, seeing as how the rest of the run's gone so far, that really did not surprise me. But yeah, we get to do another cheese just before Renala. And if you've watched my videos, you will know exactly what cheese that is. The cheese is so good that it doesn't even feel like a cheese, because I use it every single time. Nice. The best part about it is that he absolutely deserves it. Like, him being able to parry basically every move is absolutely insane. Especially before a boss without a grace. Yeah, they lost their mind. Anyway, it's time to speedrun. Alright, pop this, and down you go. Oh my god, it was a one cycle. Insane. Let me just summon these guys. Okay, great. She did that move. Alright, cool. And now we just jump her. This infinite stun lock. Alright, repose. And she's dead. GG's. And that is how you speedrun Renala. Alright, so we're entering the Carrier Manor because we actually want to do part of Rani's questline. And the reason that is because we want to do Celevis's questline and get the Magic Scorpion charm. And sadly, you can't do it at a certain part of the game, so I just want to do it before we fight Radahn. I'm pretty sure it is a bit of a long quest though, so that'll be fun. Summon this. And start attacking. Please. Thank you. Alright, now I think we actually have to talk to Rani before we talk to Celevis. Could be wrong, but we're just gonna do it anyway. Two. Ooh. Alright, you're dead. GG. As someone who absolutely despises his boss, doing that to them is just incredibly satisfying. Obviously, you do kind of need to know how their moves work a little bit, but even then, you could probably play it safe and just keep running away from them. Okay, we're using Assassin's Gambit to sneak past these guys. I don't know if it's going to work so well. I mean, it kind of did. But I do recommend anyone who is struggling to get past these kinds of sections, just grab Assassin's Gambit. It makes your life so much easier. Now, can you upgrade my Mimic? Alright, got a +9 Mimic. Alright, so this next cheese we're going to do requires us to use the bow and kukris. Kind of similar to how you cheese a Knight's Cavalry. And it actually works in a similar way, except this time, instead of letting him walk off by himself, we have to give him a little push. Thing is, I've never done it with Square Off before, but I assume it probably works the same way, right? Usually people use the Uchi Katana just because it's easier to get poise breaks with, but I'm pretty sure Square Off does a lot more poise damage, so it should work the exact same, if not even better than the Uchi. Okay, we have to let him start walking and then we crouch away. There. I think he's in the right spot. Alright, let's try it. Yeah. Alright. See, pretty simple. I waited for him to turn around there just because sometimes if you don't wait, he'll like jump around and then just jump away from the edge, which obviously is not what you want.
I wish you luck. You have fought long.
Oh no, I'm so sad that you're gone. I do this bit every single video. Alright, we'll grab this. Also, while we're here, we'll actually grab the Starfish just because they are one of the best weapons in the game, honestly, and we might use it later on. Alright, grab that. Okay, so just before we fight Godfrey, we're actually going to need one more thing, and that is the Lightning Spear. And the reason we're using Lightning Spear is because it's a long-range move, and he's also weak to lightning, so it's just going to do that much extra damage. So we're just going to have to grab the book. Give me that book! GG. Alright, give me that. Alright, we'll grab this, I guess. And we'll grab this just in case. I have a feeling we're gonna need it. Pop this. And I think we're fine. Ooh, that's nice damage actually. I don't know why I rolled that. Ignore the fact that I died there, please. Alright, pop this. Pop this. And now we go through and pop Mimic. Oh, he's waiting for me? Huh. Alright, let's just do this. Ooh. There we go, and again. Even though I know how to fight this boss, I want to do it in a cheesy way, so I'm not going to be fighting him right there. Alright, he's dead. See? Just jump in with Lightning Spear and you're going to be all fine. Alright, now on this Morgott fight, we're kind of going to do a similar thing we did in the first Margit fight, and similar to what we did against Renala. I don't really know if there's anything he can do to make this a challenge for me. Down! Done again. Oh, I didn't want to do that, I'll be honest. Spam. Oh, great. Mimic, do something! Spam him! Nope. GG's. I don't know if I want to call that a cheese, though. Then again, if any of you are struggling doing what I just did there, I don't think there's any hope for you. Ideally, what I wanted to happen originally is that you'd hit him until just before he gets to his second stage, and then you'd poise break him, and then you'd get extra damage, and you could actually probably one-cycle him that way. Alright, so we'll come back to this boss after we get this Grace, because I want to use Pest Throws on him, and I want to see how much damage it does. Okay, that damage is pretty good. Ooh, let me not die though. Hit. Hit again. Rough move. Some nice hits though. Again. And again. Ooh, hi. Bye. Do we kill this guy? Is that really a question I'm asking? And you're dead. GG. Using your own incantations against you. Feels bad. But then again, I don't really feel that bad about it. Alright, so because we want to fight Melania and Moog, I'm gonna actually have to fight Command Denial. And I do actually have a cheese in mind in order to fight him. But it does mean that we do have to set up for it. Alright, do that, then we'll do that. Wait, I did make the right ones, right? I want to die. Alright, now we have this thing upgraded to plus 18. And we actually have the right arrows crafted. So, we can actually, finally, begin. Alright. And I think it no longer works. Okay, to improvise what didn't work, we will be using this. Alright, got it. It's the easiest thing I can think of. So I don't think you're going to struggle doing this if you try and copy me. There we go. Just dodge this. If he does this, we just hit him. I mean, this boss is pretty easy if you just do this. Make it so he comes to you instead of going to him. You don't even need to really know his moveset. You just need to know that timing, and that's it. The other move's super easy to dodge. Alright, and just like that, he's dead. Alright, so for the next boss, which is Fire Giant, we're going to use a mixture of Pest Threads and the Rotten Breath. But I will mainly be using Pest Threads, kind of similar to how I fought Radahn. Let's kind of go in a similar direction. It should be the finalized build for this boss. I don't think we really need to do anything fancy. We just kind of have to cook him. I also forgot to get the Rot Breath, so this might already be failed. I want to die to the boss so we can put on Rot Breath. I want to see the difference. Alright, and now we just spam. Spam more. Spam. Spam. Alright, next stage. Okay, we'll just rot his hand. There we go. I mean, honestly, at this point, we can just run using Torrent. He's rotted, so yeah. Bye-bye. And that is why we love rot. And just like that, that is how you cheese Grail. Alright, now that we have everything we need, killing these bosses is going to be so quick. Alright, so before we actually fight the Godskin duo, we do actually need to pick up this book. Alright, grab that. And we're going to be using this against Placidusax, which honestly, it just melts his HP. Alright, there we go. Alright, throw another. Does it get both of them? Yep, it gets both. Alright, cool. There we go. I wanted to repose. There we go. I mean, it didn't let me repose, but it's fine. Alright, this one. Charge, and repose. If we repose, we get extra damage and extra hits. Like here. Now. That was actually an insane guess by me. Alright, cool. There we go. I stood over there just so I wouldn't repose him by accident. There we go, and GG's. See, that was a lot easier to do. Alright, before we fight Placidusax, we want to get our Ancient Dragon Cult incantations. And to do that, we need to speak to this turtle. Alright, so the reason we're back in Altus is because we want to get Godfrey's icon, which will just boost our damage from the lightning even more. There we go. Get the poise break. Dead. Yeah, this weapon is just so OP, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. And for this, we don't want to use Assassin's Gambit, as we're going to need all the health we can get, seeing as there isn't a Grace down there. Alright, let's hope I don't mess this up. Okay. Oh, no, now he's doing it. Alright, just do one of these. Move! Hit. Charge. Wait, is it fire? It is fire. Charge. Oh my god, I actually managed to land it. Wait, no way. I one-cycled him. Okay. This is, interesting. That is... I've never done that before, okay? I'm gonna pretend as if that was intentional. I mean, if you want to see what build I'm using, this is it. With an add-on of Golden Vow and Howl of Shrubbery. And in the flask, all I really have is a lightning tier. So, it simply is just that easy. Okay, we're gonna try something. And I'm gonna say it right now, it's probably not gonna work. Ugh. Wait, maybe if I stay here, he won't do it. Okay, that missed. Okay, that does hit. Okay. And he's rotted. So we can just wait for the health to tick down. Second stage, I don't know. I guess I could probably try the same thing again, but I don't think it will work. Please, Malekith. There we go, I think he's rotted now. And now we can just wait out the clock. To make it even easier, you could just use Mimic as well to keep the aggro on Mimic. Maybe I should have done that. Spawn Mimic, rot him from afar, and then just let his health tick down. Anyway, that was simple. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be doing is going to Haligtree, but in order to do that, we do need a certain weapon. And that weapon is this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is get Unseen Form, and the way we do that is doing a puzzle in this forest area. There we go. Yep, okay. Alright. I guess they don't expect too many people to do it this way around, so it does look a little bit weird when it spawns in. Alright, grab that. Alright. And take you out. Thank you. Okay, so now that we're in Haligtree, all we gotta do is just make it to Loretta. Alright, so with this cheese, this is actually kind of simple. Unless I obviously fail it, and in that case, it's not very simple. But it just involves you stealthing behind Loretta and kind of just stunning her using one of these. To be fair, when I saw this cheese, this gate was already closed, so I might actually have to die for this to work. But I'm not dying to your hands. Okay, let's see. And she is dead. GG. I think that might be the best cheese I've ever done in this video. I mean, I say that now, but I do think the Melania one is just slightly better, because it does that with a bit more finesse. Alright, we got the weapon to +10, and I think this is all we need to fight Melania now. But yeah, before we do the cheese, however, we do need to die. As, if you don't know, the first time you go to Melania, you kind of spawn right next to her, so there's no way to stealth it. Alright, let's see how Rural fucks this one up. Okay, so the moment she turns around, we start sprint crouching towards her. There we go. I think we did it now. Beginners who don't know the movesets too well. The Radagon one, you only really need to know 2 moves. The one where he raises his left hand to throw to the distance. That was a bad description by me. And then the other one where it's a different variation of that. That's all you need to know. And those 2 moves are really easy to avoid. Anyway, with that, that is how you beat Elden Ring's main game while only cheesing. The reason I thought Moog in this video was because I'm setting up for the DLC, as this will be the part 2 to this kind of idea. So if you guys want to see that, why not like the video and also comment down below. Anyways, with that, peace.
Walk right in, all you sinners and saints. Tonight's the night, we're gonna take off these chains. Some moves will never mend. It came with a warning, now we're all out of time. This romance with ignorance has left us behind. Sit back, relax, begin. It's too early for surrender, too late for a prayer. We can't go to hell if we're already there. They say the end is coming and I need to prepare. We can't go to hell if we're already there.
Today, I asked myself, could you beat Dark Souls without gaining souls? And I don't mean that in the modded sense or the figurative sense. Could you literally beat Dark Souls 3 without your soul counter increasing by even 1? An impossibility. Pure insanity. If you kill a boss, you gain souls. Enemies, you gain souls. Hell, even if something dies near you, you're getting souls. I mean, I guess you could use Tears of Denial and skip most bosses. Oh wait, you need souls to buy that miracle. With odds like that, it's no wonder that in the 14 years of Dark Souls' existence, it has never been attempted on any of the games, ever. Until I arrived. This is a run months in the making, and one I'm very proud of. Let's start with the obvious issue, Gundyr. We can't get past him without killing him, and if you kill him, you get his souls. Right? Well, while it's true we have to kill him, there is a way to make sure we don't gain souls from bosses. The Dark Sign. While normally useless in a regular run, this simple item gets rid of all your souls and then respawns you at the previous bonfire. So, simply kill Gundyr and use the Dark Sign once the bonfire appears, signaling that you've beaten the boss. And there, 0 souls. Or not. Well, I guess there is a reason this hasn't been done before. You see, apparently all the Dark Sign does is get rid of your current souls. Even if you are due souls from killing a boss, using the Dark Sign early won't benefit us. However, what if we timed it right before the souls went into our inventory, but still registered as given? The first issue is trying to time when to use the Dark Sign is difficult. After a lot of practice, I do manage to get some attempts where the souls don't go into my inventory, but shows as received. But the operative word in this challenge is gained. Having the extra souls appear over my inventory, even if they don't actually go into it, still indicates that I have gained souls. Meaning, you can't use the Dark Sign to avoid soul gain. But I'm not quite done yet. Gundyr's arena is luckily located near a cliff, so perhaps dying due to gravity will work? Unfortunately, the death screen takes so long to appear that the souls go into your inventory before you go into the loading screen. But if our only problem is speed, we just have to make sure we die even faster. What about if this time we kill Gundyr close to the cliff and then roll off of it? It should be much faster, so maybe this time it'll work? And I wait, but no souls go into my inventory. Gundyr has been defeated without any soul gain. And with that, our hellish journey has just begun. Well, that's surely a good sign of things to come, and 100% won't become an ongoing pattern of annoyance. Well, shit. Here we go again. While I re-kill Gundyr, let's talk about why the dark sign won't work while gravity does. It seems that souls can only be preemptively removed upon a natural death, so using a homeward bone, quitting out, or using the dark sign even if timed properly, you will still return to find the souls in your inventory, while natural deaths will make sure you don't get the souls you're due even if they haven't gone into your inventory yet. However, not every boss has a convenient ledge to jump off of, but we will jump off that proverbial bridge when we get there. Luckily in this challenge, so long as we don't gain souls grabbing Estus shards, we can still use Estus flasks, so that's nice. But I won't be needing you today, old friend. It's not you, it's me.
Ashen One, be sure to bring more souls.
Yeah, about that. This brings us to our second point. Because we can't gain souls in this challenge, we obviously can't use them either. Meaning no leveling up, no upgrading or infusing weapons, and no buying things from the Shrine Handmaiden even though she wants us to. This makes the challenge hard on a skill-based level as well, and is hard enough to be a nightmarish challenge on its own. But, ironically enough, today it's the least of our worries. For now, our biggest problem is the logistical nightmare of how do you avoid gaining souls when everything around you wants to die, needs to die, or just kills everything that enters its sight. More on that later. Arriving at Lothric, we have a couple issues right off the bat. Like this dragon who will kill these hollows giving you souls. While this is my normal route to get through the area, it's not the only one. Alternatively, you can just go straight through all the enemies on the right path, so there's not really much issues. But not too far up ahead lies a Pus of Man. Not normally an issue, however, if you're not careful, he will kill the